Hello, everybody. We are just getting started. Fabulous. Just waiting for people to join our workshop. We have people tuning in from all over the country, all over the world, people from Australia and Puerto Rico, athletes around the globe joining in to have an important conversation about mental health. I'm just waiting here for my co-host Ben to also join me. But welcome to the Hidden Opponents first ever event, #Pro Perspective. Seeing so many familiar faces in the chat, and I'm excited. Ben, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Victoria? Glad to be here. I'm really excited for this.
Me too. We have been so excited waiting for this, and now it is finally here. We are live to over 100 people on YouTube who are streaming in from all over the world. So welcome to the first Hidden Opponent event, #Pro Perspective. Tonight is going to be very special. The first thing I want to do is preface what the Hidden Opponent is for those of you who may not be familiar with it. So the Hidden Opponent is a community that was founded to raise awareness for student-athlete mental health and provide a platform for athletes to share their stories and help eliminate the stigma of mental health and athletic culture. So that is how the Hidden Opponent was founded. And this event, #Pro Perspective, is to help give advice, guidance, and support to all the athletes out there who are struggling with the coronavirus situation. So we called on 3 pros from the sports world to help us gain perspective by sharing their perspective. Ben, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we can do some intros.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? My name's Ben Ruvo. I'm from Northern New Jersey. I'm 20 years old and I'm a student athlete at Washington College. I'm a baseball player there. I'll be the MC tonight. I'm really excited to host this show. It's going to be really exciting. I'm not sure if Victoria introduced herself initially, but she's all really excited to work with her.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Victoria Garrick. I played volleyball at USC. I'm a former athlete. Ben is a current student athlete, so hopefully you can get 2 perspectives there. And we're really excited because hopefully going through tonight, which the rundown will be as follows. We'll have April Ross as our first guest. We can see she's already here. We're so excited. Next will be Festus Ezeli and then Dr. Mike Gervais. And each of them will be coming in for about 20 minutes to do a Q&A, getting right to the good stuff to hopefully help give you guys the answers you're looking for during this time. So Ben, why don't you share why you have been advocating for mental health and sort of what your experience has been there so we can start this conversation.
Of course, I love sharing my story. It's one of the most empowering things that anybody could do. So to start, my OCD journey started when I was about a sophomore in high school. My OCD isn't the typical OCD you think of. I had a lot of, mental compulsions. My OCD was clear OCD, where I only had mental compulsions. I was getting really anxious and depressed. It led me to sleeping a lot. I missed games, I missed practices because of my OCD. And eventually my junior year of high school told me, like, listen, and I'm not leaving your house and tell your parents what's going on. So I eventually got the help I needed. I did exposure response prevention therapy, and I learned the proper techniques to combat what I was going through. And, going to therapy is the most important thing you could do. And that's something that really inspired me to, advocate and try to make this change, because a lot of people, they're very reluctant to go to therapy. They think, oh, what if it doesn't work with that? And
Whoops, I have Ben frozen for me. Ben, can you hear me okay? I'm not sure if Ben is also frozen for you guys, but if he is, I'll just jump in here. Ben advocates for mental health because of his experiences with OCD. I advocate for mental health because of my experiences with performance anxiety and depression. So that is kind of why I was drawn to talk about mental health, because I felt so alone and so shocked once that had happened for me. And tonight, we're really excited to bring on these special guests. And without further ado, I would love to introduce our first guest, someone very special, and her name is April Ross. So let me give her her intro. April Ross is a professional beach volleyball player and a two-time Olympic medalist. She grew up in Newport Beach, California, and eventually attended USC for indoor volleyball. She won back-to-back national championships, received a list of awards and accolades like National Freshman Player of the Year, multiple All-Americans, and the Honda Sports Award for the nation's top female collegiate player. After college, April began competing at the pro level. She made the switch to beach volleyball and now is one of the best to ever play in the sand. She won a silver medal in 2012 Olympics, and then again in the 2016 Olympics, she played with Kerry Walsh and took home the bronze medal. So she's been competing for the past few years now to qualify for 2020, which would be her third appearance. And she's going to be sharing how she's handling all of that with us. So many athletes have had seasons canceled and the things that they've been working for canceled. So hopefully by chatting with April, we can help gain some perspective. So I'd love to start my interview with April. Our stream is loading as April will join me as a co-host to help answer some of these questions. Hey!
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just hoping my internet connection holds up.
It's been pretty good throughout. I feel bad for poor Ben, but good thing that hopefully he'll be back right when this ends. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your time. I know you could be doing a lot of things right now.
No, this has kind of been a surprising good thing to come out of quarantine is I'm getting to connect with a lot of people that I wouldn't normally get to talk to. And the internet is an amazing thing when it holds up. So I'm excited to be here and share some of my thoughts and tips with everybody.
Great. Well, if it's okay with you, I want to dive right in. You were someone I thought of immediately because you have been directly impacted by this coronavirus. You were training for years to hopefully qualify for Tokyo, and that is postponed. So what were your exact emotions when you realized the Olympic Games was not going to happen as planned?
Well, I was upset. Training for 4 years for an Olympics is really tough. And to think about having to do it for a full another year is daunting. I was in, kind of disbelief. I didn't expect it to have this big of an impact. I thought the Olympics were untouchable. And so I was just thinking that it was going to go forward. So I was a little shocked when it was postponed. And then I went into a short mode of panic, Our season was also started dropping off pretty immediately. There's not a lot of events to play, if any. This is my career, this is how I make money. I didn't know what was going to happen with my sponsors. So, those were my general reactions to it.
And it's totally understandable why a whole other year. I mean, you spend 4 years just putting yourself in the right position for this to happen. And then now you're in a place where you don't know how many tournaments they might add, how long this could be extended. How have you managed to not be completely frustrated and fall down sort of a mental hole of like negativity?
Well, I think the first thing I've been through my fair share of challenging experiences in life, and nothing worthwhile that you're trying to accomplish is without adversity, and it just shows up in different forms. And the longer you live, the more adversity you're going to encounter. So I've learned from the past. I know that I can handle this, and I kind of, I put my head down and focus on the present and what I can do. I get a lot of freedom from panic when I know I'm taking care of what I need to take care of in the present moment to help myself in the future. And then what I turn to a lot is perspective. I try to put the whole situation into a bigger perspective. As far as I'm concerned, this is, if you're healthy and you're safe, this is not the worst possible scenario. If you're just worried about, your season being canceled, that's not a big deal. Let's make sure we're staying safe, we're staying healthy. We can be grateful for that. And this is going to pass for a lot of us, and we're going to get back to playing volleyball. So we don't need to, go down that dark hole or get frustrated. We can't control this, and it will pass, So I think finding perspective and then reframing the situation. We can look at it in a really negative light, or we can look at it in a positive light. And the way I'm choosing to see it after those initial bad emotions, I'm viewing this time as extra time I get to prepare for the Olympics that I didn't have before. This is time that I have at home that I haven't had before. I can do a lot of stuff here to prepare for the Olympics that I wouldn't have had time to do otherwise. There's been a lot of positives in this. Like I said, if you're staying healthy and safe.
A lot of athletes have struggled a bit to transfer what their normal practice routine is to now being confined to a quarantine and figuring out how to get that same workout, that same high they get from actual competition. So what were your first weeks like training at home and making that adjustment?
The first weeks were the worst because I thought, okay, we can't train for 2 weeks. We were in the thick of preseason. We were actually ready to get going for season, and we were competition ready. And so I'm like, 2 weeks without training, like, how am I going to keep up with everything? And so I kind of just brainstormed stuff that I could do around the house. I remembered I had a net that I pulled out of the garage and put in my front yard. So I was really lucky with that. And just kind of I felt like I was back in high school. And when I wanted extra reps, I would go out to the backyard and just bump the ball against the wall and play pepper with myself. And it helped knowing that everyone was in the same boat. It wasn't like I'm being disadvantaged because I can't train right now. Everybody's not training. So I knew I didn't have to be like super hard on myself and volleyball, I've been told this by coaches my whole career. Volleyball is like riding a bike. You get a little anxious if you can't practice every day and you think you're going to lose all these things. But once you get back into the swing of it, once we're able to train again, you're going to get everything back that you had, So just not getting too anxious about losing your touch on the ball, just doing what you can. And I the first couple of weeks were the worst. And then I started to accept the reality and just being easier on myself and, knowing that it was okay if I lost a little bit of touch. And I think it's easier to focus on the workout side of things. There's a lot of body weight. There's so much going around the internet right now. I have a workout out there. I'm doing another one on Saturday, but you can do a ton of body weight stuff to stay in shape. You can do jumps, you can do plyos, you can do push-ups, you can do squats, you can go for a run. So I think it's about making a plan for yourself. Like we talked about on the podcast, I believe everybody knows what they need to do to get it done, what they need to get done. So make a plan for yourself, stick with it. If you feel like pushing yourself, push yourself. But also if you don't, it's okay. Everybody's going through a challenging time and we're going to have time when this is over to get back into the swing of things.
That's one of my favorite things you've ever said. And it stuck with me is just when people say, how do I do this? How can I do that? It's just, if you really genuinely want this, you're going to find a way. I've always loved that. And do you feel like you've had any workouts at home that have felt like they're at the caliber of your normal training? Like this was a workout that the best beach volleyball player in the world would be doing? Or do you think it's kind of impossible to channel that in your backyard with no equipment?
Sorry about my dog. She's going crazy.
They're great for mental health. We love it.
Yeah, they are. I can do, plyo workouts and conditioning pretty close to what I would be doing normally. If I hadn't taken the opportunity to rent a lot of stuff from the USA Volleyball Gym and put it in my garage, I would not be able to keep up with my lifting program. But because I was able to get some equipment, I've been able to keep up with my lifting program pretty right on. But to keep up the training at a high level of what it would be if this wasn't happening is pretty impossible, I think, overall.
How do you manage to stay motivated and every single day do something to get better when you don't know when the Olympics will be or when the next time you play will be?
Well, like I said, I'm now viewing this time as, bonus time. What am I going to do with this extra time I've been granted? Like, this is a gift and I want to take advantage of it. It's not time that we can waste. And I think about how my competitors are maybe using this time. And like I said, it's impossible to do training perfectly, but how are other people getting creative? And can I get more creative than them and utilize this time better than them? And something that's been really motivating for me is reading. I had to clean out my garage for my gym, and I came across this book is kind of old, Mind Gym. Have you read it?
No, but it looks great.
Yeah, so I started reading that. I recommend it. It's really motivated me to work on the mental side of things. It's a lot about visualization and, positive self-talk and all that good stuff. So reading has motivated me. And another thing I like to do is wear running shoes. So I get up and I don't walk around barefoot. I don't walk around in my slippers. Like, I put on my running shoes, and that kind of is just like a signal to myself, like, you're going to do stuff today, And so, like, I'm ready to work out. I'm ready to walk the dog. I'm ready to go on a run. So I have my running shoes on and I do my hair. And then it's just kind of like, I'm ready to attack this day. So
I love
all
that.
those things like help me get motivated. And I think just wanting to do what's going to be best for myself in the future right now is the main thing keeping me motivated.
I love that. I'm literally wearing slippers under my desk as we speak. I need to be better about that. But it is true. It's just an attitude and a mindset when you do a little thing like that, like put your athletic shoes on and feel like you'll train or you'll do something body weight today. We've also, you and I have talked about body image before, and the big adjustment for a lot of people has been because I'm not training my normal hours, because now I'm confined to my house, my eating regimen is kind of been, off. So how have you managed to keep all of that health and wellness stuff on track? And have there been any moments where you had to sort of reassess?
Hold on one second. Can you open the door again? It's so hot. I know you are super big on intuitive eating, which has actually influenced me a lot. It's like,
really?
Yeah, it's like I have to trust that my body knows what it needs. And, obviously I know the difference between wanting a donut and needing a donut, and I probably don't need a donut, but I've kind of more focused on when I'm eating. So I'm working out 6 out of 7 days right now, just because I've had to increase the volume a little bit. And I, eat surrounding my workouts. I don't preach this or recommend this, and I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist, but I don't recommend it when you're training full time. But because my training the volume has gone down so much, I'm doing a little bit of intermittent fasting. So I'm just eating breakfast later, and I don't restrict myself, but I just try to focus on eating good, healthy foods. You know, I'm not cutting out any food group or anything like that. I'm trying to limit the amount of snacks I have in my house. I keep a bunch of fruit on the counter, and I grow fruit in my backyard. So I know if I get really hungry, I can go out and have a piece of fruit. But I've gained weight. You know, I think it's inevitable during this time that you're going to gain a little bit of weight, and that's just life. And I've gone through that my entire career. Off season, I gain some weight. When I start training, I lose some weight, you know, and I just, when it comes time, it's time, and I'll focus on what I need to do physically to be ready to compete. But right now I'm being a little bit looser. I still want to do what's good for my body though. You know, I don't want to be eating a bunch of junk food, because that's going to make, mentally and physically, that's going to make me feel worse.
How do you manage your emotions that are maybe sort of the, I guess, the negative emotions like anxiousness, fear, hopelessness, frustration, when those arise during the day?
I am a big journaler, and it's something that I've gone back to during this time. I've had a lot of time to journal, and, you know, you're hit with these emotions throughout the day, and it's reminded me how much that's helped me deal with my emotions. And I just feel like writing them down makes them more organized, and it sounds more rational, and it gives me perspective, and I can go back and I can read how I worked through those emotions. If they pop up again, I have it in writing. So that for me is the best and biggest way I've been dealing with these emotions. I've also been meditating, and it's been harder during this time. I also feel like it's been a bit of a blessing, because there's so much time to think, and all these things can be brought up again that you forgot about, and you have time to deal with them now, and you have time to work through them. And so I've been taking this opportunity to do that.
Have you taken any bit of a break, or are you fighting to not let yourself view this as vacation, off time, type time?
I do a little bit of everything every day. I get my workouts in if I'm going to do those. I watch video with my team if that's on the schedule. And then if I feel like taking a nap, I take a nap. If I want to just chill and watch a little bit of TV, I do that. I have my schedule and my to-do list. So I know the like basic things I need to get done. So I get those done. And then if I feel like doing more productive things, I do that. If I don't, then I just relax. And I think it's important during this time to take the time to relax, you know, and refresh mentally and physically, so that when we get back to, you know, the grind, that we're not burnt out.
Totally. And also, I'd love to know how you are sort of keeping a solid sense of self. I think a lot of young athletes really identify with their sport being their purpose. And this is something I want to dive into with Dr. Gervais. But how have you been able to feel confident in who you are without the volleyball happening right now? Because right now would be all of your press and your photo shoots and April Ross, the beach volleyball superstar. And right now we're all at home.
That's a hard one for me to answer. I've never really felt like my identity was, you know, it is tied to volleyball, but that's not my whole identity. And this time has allowed me to kind of pursue different passions. And within that volleyball part of my identity, though, I also, feel like there's a responsibility to connect and inspire and encourage the volleyball community to get out there and stay positive. And so like via social media, I've kind of taken that on, and that's been a focus of mine and a purpose. And I've signed on to a couple causes to help promote those causes. So just finding different ways to explore and kind of maximize who I am in this time. And it can be a little bit uncomfortable, you know, but I think that's when the growth happens. And that's we should be open to pursuing different things. I've picked up some hobbies again, and I'm doing woodworking right now. I'm rebuilding a table, and got my saw out, got my sander out. After this, I'm going to get my sewing machine back out because I like to sew, and I'm going to do a quilt with all my old SC and club shirts and everything. Yeah, and then like reading a ton. So everybody has different parts of who they are, and if you are too connected to one thing, I don't think that's super healthy in general. So if you're feeling a little bit lost right now, maybe try to reflect on who you are deep down, and try to find those other things that fulfill you during this time and look into those. I think it's good to be as well-rounded as you can be. But we're all going to feel that sense of loss because, volleyball or sports is what we do, and it's healthy, and it'll come back. But I think take this time right now to really dive deep and figure out who you are outside of volleyball.
I love that. I love that. And that was actually one of my very last question for you was just going to be, what advice do you have for the young athletes out there who similarly to you, but on a lower scale, had tournaments canceled or events that they've been working towards? And I think you really just did give a great answer for that, is like, find something else that brings you joy. But I guess, so the very last thing I'll say is, if you had to, do give a piece of advice to someone who is really fixated on what they've lost athletically, like the tournament or that game or everything they'd worked for. I think coming from you, it means a lot because you've worked for like the mega of anything an athlete could work for. So what would your advice be to someone who's having difficulties letting that go and accepting this?
That's tough. I think it's out of your control at this point. So you have to really take a look at reality and what you now have in front of you. Like that's the past. You can't control that. You're not going to get that back. And so shifting your focus to the future and what opportunities are in the future, I think it's a really beneficial thing if you can view things as a blessing in disguise. It might feel painful in the moment, but maybe there's a bigger purpose for you out there. Maybe there's something in this time that's going to, appear for you, and you pursue that, and that's going to give you even greater joy. I know in my life, when I've been the most devastated, it's created some of the most beautiful things in my life. And so I think just keeping, your eye out for the next opportunity and trying to stay positive about what might be coming your way that you don't even know about.
Thank you. I love that. It's like always believe something wonderful is about to happen, no matter what the situation.
You have to.
Thank you so much, April. You are as incredible as always, and I'm so grateful for your time, and I'm sure all the athletes listening at home really learned a lot there. So thanks so much, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Bye, you guys.
Of course. Thank you to April Ross. Ben will be joining me now, and we will be quickly discussing a cool part of the hidden opponent before our next guest, Festus Ezeli, will be joining us.
Hey, Victoria.
You froze there.
Sorry,
you're back.
About the connection. I'm back though.
Love it.
Did you guys get all my story?
Uh-oh, it's still a bit glitchy. Poor Ben is...
Yeah, did you guys get my story? I feel bad now. I was like, oh man, now what? I'm happy I was able to get back though. So
yes, I briefed him a bit.
I did get a chance to come in for April's, and that was incredible. I really enjoyed that. I'm sure you feel the same way here. So you can check out and keep up with April and her journey by following her Instagram platform at April Ross B. Is it? Can they hear? Is it still glitching?
It's still glitching a bit. I can make sure we plug that. April's Instagram account is at April Ross Beach, and you can follow her there, and then also keep up with her website, aprilrossbeach.com. And then the one thing, hopefully, if Ben's computer tunes back in, we were just going to talk about real quick before Festus joins us, that we have a Facebook group. So if you're enjoying this and you guys want to be a part of our Hidden Opponent community, you can go on Facebook, type in the Hidden Opponent student athletes or the Hidden Opponent coaches, and you can join our group where you can seek advice, communicate, make friends with other student athletes around the world who want to talk about mental health and be supportive of one another. With that said, we'll get ready for our next guest, who is Festus Ezeli. Festus is a former professional basketball player and an NBA champion. He was a center for the Golden State Warriors from 2012 to 2017 and was part of the historic Golden State Warriors NBA championship in 2015. He was born in Nigeria, graduated from high school there, and then moved to the US at 14. After casually playing soccer and taking to basketball slower than boys his age, he eventually, at 6'11", grew into his role and accepted a scholarship to Vanderbilt University, and then was a first-round draft pick, 30th overall in 2012, chosen by the Golden State Warriors. And something really cool about Festus is that he has started an organization called Rebuilding the Beast. Festus unfortunately suffered a serious knee injury, which caused him to retire early from the NBA. And so he's created that platform to inspire all people in sport and life to rebuild their beast and share stories of perseverance. So we'll be hearing more about that from him. And Festus, how are you? Welcome.
Hey, what's going on? This is my first time on this, so can everybody see me okay?
I can see you great. I'm glad that you figured it out. I was worried too, because this is my first time on Fundo as well, but it seems to be going good.
Yeah, no, it's great. How's everybody doing today? Good?
Good. I'm really glad to have you, and everyone's been really excited to hear from you. So thank you for taking the time.
We got some smiles in quarantine. I'm happy to see this. It's been a tough time for everybody.
I know, but you've been such a light. I've been grateful to connect with you recently and hear about you, and now share everything that you preach to, all the athletes watching. So if you're cool with it, I would love to dive into the questions.
That's why I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, great. So how have you been doing so far in quarantine? Did you have any mood shifts from beginning to now, sort of finding your groove in this new rhythm?
Yeah, quarantine it's weird, man. This whole process has been, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely went through a bunch of different emotions that some of them I've never experienced before, right? Boredom, all these different things, because I'm always on the go. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that people are getting sick and people are losing their lives, and so I've had friends who were sick. I actually have there's an NBA player, Carl Towns, who's a friend of mine who lost his mom. So many different emotions, and this time is just one of those times in our lives where it's like we kind of have to start. We have to dig deep into ourselves to figure out ways to get through this. And so far, I'm happy that I have my health and my family has their health, and so just finding ways to use the time properly.
Yeah, and keeping that perspective of how, even though it's a bummer what our situations are, if we're not sick or if we're not unhealthy, like, we do have it pretty good during this quarantine. And you've been someone that has been incredibly motivated during this time. I mean, you're the reason I even work out at all, because of the Zoom workouts. How have you stayed so motivated? I mean, every day you're up, working out, going 100% and giving it your all. How have you been able to do that?
Well, there's a few things. So I'm home in Sacramento right now, and I'm quarantining with my family. One thing you have to know about me, and one of my best jobs in the world, is the fact that I'm a big brother, right? All my siblings look up to me. I'm one of 5, and I'm the oldest. And so all my siblings look up to me. This is a really tough time, yeah. But they're also looking to me to see how what do I do with this time? And so one of the biggest things I've been able to do during this time is to set an example of just being positive. And part of doing that is having a routine. right? You see the workout, you see part of it actually, because we have a couple other things that we do. But the workout routine is, I have to stay in shape. I have to do things to have that, whatever it is. What's it called? Is it, you have your adrenaline flowing, but you also have
Like a drive?
Huh?
A drive?
Yeah, but like after you're done with, working out, you just feel good. And for me to be positive and to have that positivity during the day, I feel like that's a must for me, right? I don't care what it is. You can just, dance around your kitchen. As long as you do something where you're moving, that's the first step for me in staying positive. But my perspective has just been that, I have people, fans, family, friends, who look up to me for positivity. So I try to keep that in perspective as I'm going through quarantine.
How have you been able to not feel pressure by that? Because some people might think if others are looking to them and they don't have it in them, that they'll feel pressure to be a certain way. And it's clear that you naturally are emulating your true feelings. But what about someone who might feel pressure in that situation?
Well, to me, I'm doing the things that I love doing anyway, right? Like the pressure of people watching you, to be honest, is motivating for me, right? For somebody else who feels pressure by that, then you find some different motivation. But for me, the reason why it's exhilarating, it actually gives me a lot of energy, is the fact that on days when I can't go anymore, right? I think about my brother who's watching me, and when he hits that wall, I want him to know that he can do something else. He can do one more rep. He can take one more step in whatever direction. And it's actually really guided me in my journey, even to get to this point. I don't know how much time we have to get into my story, but if you ever read my story, my story, you understand that like my journey to get to this point has not been easy, but having those guys watching me has always made me feel like I can go a little bit farther.
Yeah, and we have some time here together until about we have about like 10, 15 more minutes. And I really would love everyone to hear your story. And I think one of the things that I think is so admirable and inspiring of you is you experienced a really severe knee injury, one that caused you to have to walk away from the NBA, and it wasn't your choice. It was just what had happened. And it's no one's fault when athletes get injured. And I feel like a lot of athletes right now might be injured or going through something similar. And I'd love to hear more about maybe your first reactions to that knee injury, and then how you were able to, get out of maybe a funk or being frustrated and then persevering with that rehab and the rehabilitation, both mentally and physically.
So my first reaction to getting injured, that's the sad part of our job, right? Like people watch us play and we're Superman on the court, but the sad part is you could get hurt. And the first part about my injury was sadness, right? It's like, dang, I'm hurt. But then the fact that I was gonna have such a long recovery from the beginning, it was like, wow, like it's all you see is the mountain in front of you, right? It's like, wow, like I can't do this for this long. I can't walk for these many months, and I can't. And yeah, that's really tough. And so for anybody out there who hits adversity or hits a wall, I think it's okay for you to cry. Like that was my biggest lesson. The first thing I learned is that I cried a lot. Like it was tough for me because, I went from playing in the NBA finals to not being able to walk, right? For a significant amount of time. I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. And during that time, it's like you lose the thing that you love, the thing that you feel gives you identity, right? Because I felt like I gave everything, like my heart, I worked so hard, and you feel kind of betrayed and you feel lonely, and there's a lot of things that you're going through, and it's a lot of sadness, which I had never really dealt with before. And somewhere in the middle of that, you grieve and then you figure out what you can control, right? So like they told me how they said, it's going to be a couple year recovery, whatnot. And in that time, you start to realize how really strong you are, right? Because things that you thought, like there's things I look back on now of, the process. And I try to share it on my social media of the things I've had to go through, being in the wheelchair, trying to learn how to walk, trying to get my muscle back in my legs because I had toothpicks for legs after, 6 months of not walking. It's you realize that you're much stronger than you think you are. And yeah, I mean, the ability to gain perspective again just came from, you know, being surrounded with so many. I've been surrounded by so many amazing people. There's people who I've met along the journey that I would have never met in my life, right? You know, I was in Vail, Colorado, where I had surgery, and during my time there, I did my rehab there for 9 months. And during my time there, it's like I just kept showing up every day, right? I had PT twice a day, and I couldn't walk, so my mom was wheeling me into the hospital every day, and I'm doing my PT, just trying to learn how to move my leg. Like, it's crazy. The little things that you take for granted are the things that I was trying to learn at that point. But I would just, like, I had support, right? I had my family, and they would always give me something. They would always give me some kind of motivation, something that they would say to me that would help me go for the day. And people would start gravitating towards me, right? Because we're all doing PT. Everybody has surgery, but some people way worse than mine, right? And I show up every day with this big smile on my face. And even when I didn't want to, I still faked it. And people started gravitating towards me, right? And so it was weird because, like, 3 months into me being there, this weird thing happened where the doctors started bringing patients to me. And they'd be like, man, like, can you talk to this lady? She just had surgery. She's having a tough time. Can you talk to her? And for me, it wasn't really, I'm not trying to be a motivational speaker. That was not my job. I was just trying to focus on my work. But they noticed how people around me were starting to get affected by the energy that I had. And so that's always been a driving force for me, because I've noticed that I can make change in my environment just by being positive. You know, somebody told me this thing a long time ago, and they said, hope. If you put it simply, hope is just being positive. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I've always looked at it. You know, meditation has been so key for me. Prayer has been amazing because, you know, my mom she loves to pray, and we always stay in the faith. Having good friends, great communication, have friends that I can cry on, I can laugh with, I have like a great support system around me. So it's been really easy to keep that perspective. Oh, no, let me rephrase. It has not been easy, but I have been able to keep perspective because of the people I have around me.
And it's cool because it seems like a lot of your gratitude and motivation is rooted in being able to change and affect the life of someone else positively. And I think for a lot of people who experience anxiety and stress is maybe thinking about like the me, or I can't do this, or I have to do this. And instead of thinking about, you know, how could I help someone else's situation? So it's cool that even in your lowest, hardest times, you were always thinking of others. I'd love to hear you talk about rebuilding the beast. This is your baby. This is your community you're building. What does it mean to rebuild the beast? And how does this relate to people who are listening?
So we're talking about adversity, right? So adversity hits, and I'm not going to sit here and act like all the time I'm always this positive guy, right? I had days where, like I said, I cried. I'm just sitting there like, man, like, what's happening? Why is this happening so badly? But somewhere along the line, I also realized that I have a responsibility, right? With every day, with the resilience and the, you know, consistency that I'm showing and the positivity, people are getting affected by it. I'm like, wow, this story is so powerful. And there's way more people out there that show this. I meet people who have, you know, gotten into bad accidents, who it's just a stroke of luck that you get into an accident, now you can't walk, but they're still being positive. I'm like, yo, how do you guys do this? You know, and I draw motivation from people who have all these things. And so as I talk to them, as I'm around them, it made me want to share stories. Well, starting with mine, sharing my story. Yeah, like I started from, you know, I was 14 years old when I came to America. I came here not knowing anything about the game. I watched an NBA game for the first time with my uncle. We're watching Kobe Bryant, and he turns to me and says, you never know, you could be on the court here someday. Well, shortly after that, I got cut from my high school basketball team. So it was like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to be an NBA player. I'm not going to be a basketball player at all. But I kept working. You know, like I keep saying about people coming into my life, I just kept working hard. And I went to college. I went to Vanderbilt University. Ended up being one of the top 150 kids in the country after like 2 years after being cut in high school. I went to college. I had to start over again. I was a practice player when I got there. I was actually a video guy for a junior college at one point. My story is long and it's crazy, but you know, I ended up even getting. I ended up being the team captain my junior year. I was Mr. Commodore by the time I graduated. I got to the Warriors. We started over the year before when I got to the Warriors. We won like 18 games. And I'm there with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. We all have these great group of guys, but we all had something to prove because we were all underdogs, right? And so we had to rebuild again. And so this idea of rebuilding, now the Golden State Warriors is this championship, mega team. But at the time, we were just the small team nobody cared about. And so it's just this idea that when you take a picture of somebody while they're in their adverse times and their tough times and whatever, you think that that's it, right? But they go through, that adversity is actually your friend, right? The faith that you show during those tough times is what is going to lead you to your championship. It's going to lead you to where you're trying to go and to your end goal. So Rebuilding the Beast is a platform where I want to share stories. It's going to be a podcast, it's going to be a bunch of things. But right now it's an Instagram page, Rebuilding the Beast, where I share stories of people who are facing difficult situations, but are showing faith and just are being positive. And it's just, you'll get a lot of inspiration from these people.
That's so applicable to right now. I feel like everyone listening has a chance to rebuild their beast. Like, everyone's experiencing adversity right now, and everyone can't do what they want to do. Their lives have been totally thrown off course, whether they like it or not. And so what would you say to someone who's really been struggling in this time, who needs to know this is their chance to rebuild their inner beast?
Yes, it's that idea that, when it hits, you cry. Like I said, the first few days or the first couple of weeks for me in quarantine, I just didn't know what to do. I'm very active. I move around all the time. The gyms are closed where I work out. The NBA is shut down, which I'm actually working on playing. I was planning on playing with the team before 2 days before my workout with the team, the NBA got closed down, right? So
I know. So how did you handle that? Because you had worked so hard to rehab, so hard to get back. I'm sure there's athletes listening to this who literally had just got back from their ACL tear, and then their season's over and they don't get to play and reap the benefit. So how did you handle that?
It's really tough. It's tough mentally, right? But like I say, if you work on everything you can do, somebody told me this quote a long time ago. It said, all you can do is all you can do. And all you can do is enough. But make sure you do all you can do. And for me, it's like, okay.
I have chills.
Yeah, it's all these things. I've been surrounded by amazing people that they make me motivated. And so in that time, it's like, okay, well, that's just what's happening right now. I can't control that the NBA is closed, that there's quarantine, and I'm sitting here. But what do I have? Well, I have time. I have my family. I have support. And then okay, well, I can't work out. The gym is closed. Well, we can work out in the garage. You've seen how hard of a workout we can get without weights, without anything. We're jumping around doing all these crazy stuff. But at the end of the workout, my body's already changing in quarantine. I have friends. I actually just posted a picture of one of my friends who, after 1 month, he's already getting a six-pack, all this stuff. There's always something you can do. And even during this time, there's things that we can do to control, the way we feel, right? You eat right, you exercise, you meditate. I've been trying to do meditation every morning when I wake up. So there's just this idea that there's things that you can't control. And the challenge is for you have to take that and just throw it away, because you can't control it. You can't do anything about it. All you can do worrying about it is just make yourself mad. So the things you can't control there's a lot of things that you can control, and there's things that you can always do. So all you can do is all you can do, and it's enough.
I love that. I can tell why, I knew this, but why you are that positive guy. They're sending patients your way. I feel like every time I speak to you, I'm like, I got to do more. I'm inspired. So I guess
that's how I feel though when I see you talking. And to be honest, what you do is so inspiring to me, because I love the fact that you're so real, right? Because everybody wants to post pictures and say things that they're not. And part of that is you're not happy with where you're at. You're like, yo, where I'm at is great, and my journey is my journey, right? That's, to me, is inspiring, because you don't know how many people you're inspiring by being that person. Because so many people have these questions and have these feelings, but nobody wants to talk about it because they're looking at perfect pictures. I don't want to paint a perfect picture. I want to show you what the journey takes and how hard it is, because that's what makes you appreciate it. When you see me holding the trophy, it's like, man, I was cut in high school. I scored my first basket against my own team. My first, it was embarrassing. I had to go. My story is crazy. I was a video guy. I was this close from quitting because I wanted to be a doctor. There's so many things. And so when I'm holding the NBA trophy, it doesn't seem real. And I want to take you guys on that journey with me, because then you understand that nothing great is ever accomplished without it being tough, without resilience, without positivity, and just commitment to the process, right? I don't want to paint a picture of perfection all the time. We're not perfect. That's what greatness is. It's like just working through the imperfections, you know?
I love that. And the last thing I'll ask you, and because it's right on with what you just said, like when you said you can cry, like I cried, I mean, that's big time. There's not a lot of male athletes out there at your caliber, one of the best in the world, who are saying they cry. So how were you able to sort of break the stigma as a male athlete and be okay with talking about, like you said, the adversity and the times that aren't glamorous, the times that aren't hoisting up the trophy?
I am being myself. That's all I can be. I'm just being me. And I'm telling you about things that I went through. It's not like I'm faking the story and then I have to think about what I'm doing. I'm telling you what I went through. And so for me, it's easy because I'm just being myself. So talking about crying to me is important. And talking about my first basket that I scored is important, because then you understand how hard it's been, right? I woke up mornings and I'm just like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm still in the wheelchair. I can't walk. Am I even going to walk again? You know, but now it's 2 years later, I'm playing ball again. I'm doing everything again. The pain will pass. Whatever you're dealing with, this thing that we're going through, Corona and quarantine, is going to pass. And then we're going to come out of this. And so are you going to spend the whole time worrying and trying to figure out, you know, I'm connecting with friends, people who I haven't talked to. I'm sleeping. Lord Jesus, I'm sleeping. And I haven't, you know, we're always busy traveling and doing things and doing all these different deals. And I actually have time to spend time with my family. So I'm taking advantage of all these things. And I feel like on the other side, we'll deal with that when we get there. But where I'm at right now, I'm just going to keep doing the little things every day and make sure.
All you can do is all you can do, baby. I love it. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. That was so inspiring. You're awesome. Honored to know you. And Ben will hop on and talk all about your social medias and where everyone can follow you. But thank you, Festus.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me talk. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I wish I could get questions or something from you guys, but
I know.
But you are actually somebody that really inspires me. So keep doing what you're doing. This is awesome.
Thank you. It means the world. Thanks so much, Festus.
Sure. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
Great. I don't know how to end this, so you're going to have to help me.
You're good. You just chill there, and my amazing tech helper, John, will switch in Ben. Ben, I hope you're good right now. How are you?
I think I'm back. I'm hoping it doesn't cut out again. I'm doing all right. I'm happy I got to catch, April and Festus, even though I cut out. Is it working?
It's a little bit better.
Can you hear me?
Glitching, but why don't you go ahead with plug in Festus's socials? Maybe we'll just.
Is it cutting out? Is it cutting out again?
I think it's bearable. I want you to be a part of this. I feel bad, so we'll speak it into existence.
It's gonna cut out.
Oh, it's good now. You could go ahead with Festus's social.
It's gonna cut out.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what you guys can see, but I'll go ahead and talk about Festus's social media. If you enjoyed Festus, are you there?
Yeah, all right. So I'll get started. Okay, great. So yeah, Festus was great. You can keep up with Festus by
Ben, unfortunately, has cut out again, so I'm going to go ahead and plug Festus's social. I feel bad. Poor Ben. He's such a trooper. You can follow Festus on Instagram at Fezzyfel, so Fezzyfel, Fezzyfel. And you can also follow Rebuilding the Beast at Rebuilding the Beast. Make sure you guys check out those accounts. Festus is a light on social media, so go follow Fezzyfel and go follow his other accounts, Rebuilding the Beast. Real quick, before I introduce our next incredible guest, Dr. Mike Gervais, who we are so lucky to have, I want to just mention the Instagram platform of the Hidden Opponent. So if you guys are not following the Hidden Opponent, make sure you check it out on Instagram. We do a few things there. We post athlete stories. So your stories of what you're going through can be posted on the Hidden Opponent, as well as inspiring educational content on mindfulness and all of that good stuff, as well as newsworthy content about student athletes. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and read our intro for our last and final pro. You guys have waited for someone really special. Here we go. As a high-performance psychologist, Dr. Michael Gervais works in the trenches of high-stakes environments where there is no luxury for mistakes, hesitation, or failure to respond. Dr. Gervais, his client roster includes MVPs from every major sport, Fortune 100 CEOs, as well as internationally acclaimed artists and musicians. Dr. Gervais is the co-founder of Compete to Create alongside Pete Carroll, which has built a framework to enhance high-performance cultures by focusing on mindset training for individuals. It aims to pull back the curtain on how world-leading organizations and performers shape their lives, their thinking, and their relationships in order to be their best selves and thrive in the modern world. He has been on CNN, The Wall Street Journal, ESPN, NBC, NFL Network, Red Bull TV, Extra, The Huffington Post, Dax Shepard's podcast, and now we can say he has graced the hidden opponent with his presence. Dr. Gervais, thank you so much for being here.
Awesome to be included in your mission. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm honored, and everyone's so excited because you're probably, as usual, going to drop some important knowledge on these times for any of the athletes listening or high performers. So honored to have you.
And what a lineup. Nice job pulling together a lineup. I was loving listening to your guests. So they're legends. So I'm stoked to be part of this.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really grateful. And all of you three, all the pros, you guys have volunteered their time to help give back and share. So we're so grateful. With that said, I will jump in if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So why do you think so many athletes and people are experiencing, increased levels of anxiety and frustration during this time?
Well, I mean, anytime there's a forced upon adjustment, it's hard. And so adjustments in general, changing and figuring out a new normal, it's just hard. And our body likes, well-grooved patterns, but our brain craves novelty. It's a funny little mechanism that we have. But really what's happened is that at the essence, it's anxiety. And so it's an anxiety of my physical, it's an anxiety of my financial health, it's an anxiety of what's to come. And anxiety is born out of this inability to know if you have what it takes to meet the demands of the future. And so, I think that the reason that anxiety is kicked up for people is because the unfolding, unpredictable unknown is hard. But I just want to put a note in it is that elite athletes are actually really good at uncertainty. They've organized their whole life around it. And that's the difference between what makes some of them special and some of them journeymen, if you will, is that the best of the best of the best is they fundamentally organize their life around improvement, challenging themselves, improvement, challenging themselves. And so it's the challenge that they love, and that challenge is uncertain. Nobody goes into a game with all certainty, with any level of real certainty, knowing how it's going to go. And then if we can map our current condition on that, athletes and coaches have much to teach us about how to manage this next phase of humanity. And I don't want to lose the gravity of the condition that we're under right now. Never once could I ever imagine that every person I know is going through the exact same condition, the exact same type of experience where there's a forced upon newness, and it's a stripping back and a reminding of first principles and the things that are most important in life, which is health, which is safety and security, and a somewhat of a clear runway of how the future could go. And so this is a hard time. And then I want to add a texture to it, if I could, is that some businesses are actually better right now. Some people absolutely are loving this experience. And that's not a popular thing to say because there's so many people that are suffering, and there's so many people that are scared, and there's so many people that have died. But for some people, for some athletes, this is great. They're so happy the season's been postponed because they can get their mind right, they can get their body right, they can take care of their family structure. But for some, it's like, oh my gosh, this might be it. Might be how it ends for me. So there's a spectrum of humanity that we're experiencing, whether it's in sport or otherwise.
And it's very true. And I feel like I've sort of ebbed and flowed between the two. Some days I'm like, this is great. Other days I'm thinking this is the worst ever. So I feel like I'm definitely walking the fine line. My next question for you is, why is it so hard for athletes to differentiate between what is hard work, and what's grinding and pushing yourself, and then what's going too far and maybe causing exhaustion or feeling like you're depleted, and then kind of that line to mental health?
Okay, there's a lot in there, right?
Yeah,
I think what you're talking about is overtraining under recovery. I think you're talking about that mechanism, and then how mental health kind of surrounds it. Is that close to it?
Yes.
Okay, so one is to overtrain. It comes from a couple different reasons, right? There can be some anxiousness that sits underneath of it. There can be some love of movement where you feel really good when you're moving and you like the strain and the edges. And some of it could be, though, from not having the right mechanisms to recover properly. And so it is, in elite sport, we talk more about recovery than working hard. April, legend, knows exactly what it means to work hard. Like, no one has to tell her to work hard, right? And so it's about recovery. The game inside the game is recovery. And so there's no shortcuts, there's no hacks, there's no tricks, there's no secrets. There is fundamental, smart, intelligent, sophisticated hard work that also has equal units of recovery on a regular basis. And I will say this, though, as it relates to mental health, that there are three things that we can train as humans. You can train your craft, you can train your body, and you can train your mind. And if you're only going to train two of those, you're leaving one of them up to chance. And on the mental side of the game, there's a spectrum from optimization into suffering, right? There's a human experience there. And so not knowing exactly where you were hinting at the question, I'll take a stab at it, is that anxiety for many of us will lead to overdoing. I'm not sure, maybe I can get one more, I'm not sure. Then you couple that with something very dangerous, which is identity. So if you say this sentence to yourself, or you say it out loud, I'm an athlete, I think you're running into a dangerous future. And the reason I say that is because now we're talking about your identity. You are so much more than an athlete, so much more. And if you only see yourself unidimensional, then one of the traps that takes place is every time you go on the sand or the court or whatever you're going to do, is that your entire identity is at stake. That's not true. You can never, your identity can never be at stake. Your skill can, but not your identity. We are multidimensional, multifaceted, amazing humans. And the thing that we do can never really define the human that we are. But it's not until you decouple who you are from what you do you find the ultimate freedoms in life. And that takes time.
Wow. Chills. I feel like every game I played, my identity was at stake. How does one differentiate? How does one break free now? Let's say an athlete's listening and they're like, wow, that's totally me. He's preaching to my choir. How do they sort of peel themselves back from this identity of their sport and their athletic success?
It's a good question, because there's no kind of simple like, oh, here's the 7 steps. Do these 7 things and you'll be fine. It's a bit more dynamic, which is like just recognizing that idea that you're so much more. And so it starts with that awareness. And then the decoupling is really an intellectual exercise to say, well, who am I? Right? And if it's one of the ancient meditations, been around 2,600 years plus, just asking yourself the question, who am I? Without judgment and critique, just watch where that train of thought goes, watch where the emotions take you. Who am I? And ask it again and again, day after day. And you start to begin to realize that no role can actually define who you are, right? But many people, we like to think of ourselves in roles, like I am a son, I am a parent, I am a athlete, I am a, that we start to just think of ourselves in roles. We're even more than that. So it's a process of self-discovery. And 3 of the ways that we can activate self-discovery is have conversations with wise men and women, meditation, and then journaling. Those are 3 ways to really get after a true self-discovery process.
Thank you for answering that, because I know, like you said, there's many things that go into that. So I appreciate it. And my next question for you is, what special, opportunity do you think is presented to athletes during this time? How can they see the silver lining in this coronavirus situation when the obvious gravitation is to my tournament was canceled, my record's not going to happen, I lost my senior night? How can they see the opportunity here?
Wow, there's so many silver linings. And one of the ones that is actually pretty emotional, if you think about it, is that can you use your imagination to imagine the next time that you're going to get to hug your best friend? The next time that you're going to get to hug your parents, maybe? Can you use your imagination to feel what that might feel like, and how many times that you're going to get to do that, to have firsts all over again with so many people? And I think about my 11-year-old son when he goes back to school. And I mean, how amazing is that going to be when they see each other again for the first time? And they've got this wonderful history, and then they've got this radical new disruptive experience that they're all sharing. We're all sharing this together. And then we get to see each other again. Like, what is that intimate, fragile moment, that beautiful little moment? And we get to do it again and again and again and again. And so I think about that being a radical silver lining. I think another silver lining is that now's the time to invest in the inner self, right? And it's a little bit of a myth right now that there's free time. I don't have any free time. It's not like many of us are sitting around doing puzzles. And if you are, I want to say that's okay, but get some self-discovery going. It's one of the most powerful competitive advantages you can ever have, is to know yourself, to know who you are. And once you know who you are, nobody and nothing can ever take it away from you. No score, no mistake, no lame comment that somebody makes, no getting cut, getting a job. Nobody can ever take it away from you, but you have to earn that. And that comes from asking yourself, who am I? It comes from knowing your core philosophy, your first principles of life, if you will. And I'd love to double click into that, but I get animated because I just know how powerful it is. And I've seen people go through the process, and it's amazing.
Let's double click, because let's say I'm like, oh, I'm doing the puzzle. I've been playing a lot of code names. I love the game Code Names. I feel like you'd be great at it. What are some things I can do along with asking myself, who am I, to work on that inner self journey?
Okay, so when you think about self-discovery, one of the core things is knowing your philosophy. And it doesn't mean you have to absolutely put it in tattoo form, but like, what are your core principles? If you started with that, what are my first principles? What are they? And then you started to get really clear what those are in your life, you might be able to shape a guiding philosophy, And so what is a guiding philosophy? It's basically a sentence or two that articulates the principles that guide your life. And okay, so for example, what was Dr. King Jr.'s principle? What was his philosophy, if you had to guess?
Imagination, having a dream, believing in hope.
Yeah, all of those would be the principles. And you would say his philosophy probably has to do with equality, right? And then he had those core principles that surrounded it. And then his mission was to help people have, the freedoms that he thought were part of the human condition. So that's an example. Think about the greatest leaders that you know. You probably know their philosophy because they lived it. And what a philosophy does, it becomes a bumper, if you will. It becomes something to rub up against to help guide your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And when you get those things lined up, I'll tell you, it's incredible. And so those are some of the most powerful humans in the world, is that their thoughts, their words, and their actions are consistent across conditions.
Can you give me an example of an athlete you think has that down?
I wish you would have asked your last two brilliant guests. I wish we would have asked April or Festus. But,
I guess just
I don't actually like. It's a funny thing.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a funny thing is that I'm battling in my head about how to answer that, because I don't ever want to talk about athletes, right? It's an unbecoming look for a psychologist to talk about athletes. So I actually just want to pause and say, let's play the game and see if we could come up with it. But I don't want to take the lead on that dance.
No, that's okay. And I respect that. I appreciate it. I think it's helpful to me because, I think it is important to not, like you said, have that identity of athlete. And I think just that question from me, does couple us all back into the we're athletes. So I totally understand that. And something else that I was hoping that you could shed some light on too is staying motivated without an actual clear goal or game or meeting that someone knows they have on their calendar. Keeping that daily motivation without knowing when you're going to use it. How do we tap into that?
You got to go upstream from that. So goals are downstream from purpose. So when you go upstream to purpose, like what is my purpose? It's a big question, right? Like what is my life purpose? It's a big question. Most people don't have it answered. And it's okay if you don't know your purpose, but goals fall downstream from that. Okay, so, but if you don't know your purpose, it's a good investigation. It's a good time to say, well, what is my life purpose? And here's the thing, nobody can give it to you. It's yours to determine. And if you don't want to think about your life purpose, you can say, well, what do I want my purpose for COVID to be? What do I want my purpose this year to be? And so you can thin slice your purpose. And there is a science to purpose that I'd love to share. But so you got to go upstream. So downstream is like putting a Band-Aid on the cut, saying, well, what are my goals? And then underneath goals is like my motivation for the goal. Go way up. What is my purpose? It will inform your goals. And if your purpose is real, you will wake up in the morning and you'll say, right, okay, what am I doing to get after that? Because goals are transient. You check the box, you did it, good, great, okay. And there's 3 types of goals. There's the outcome goals, like I'm doing it for a medal or money or fame or whatever. Then there's the process goals, which is I want to get really good at how I do what I do. And then there's the performance goals, which is making sure that you can execute, and all of those types of goals are meant to hub around like something bigger, like my purpose in life. And so you got to go upstream. And then we can apply some good science, which is to help people be more driven. There's 3 components if you do good research here, and it's called the self-determination theory. But knowing that you are getting better at something. So developing competence is pillar number 1. The second is having a sense of autonomy, that you get to choose how you organize your life. And then the third is having meaningful relationships. So people that have all 3 of those, they're getting better at something, they're choosing how they live their life. And then the third is they've got meaningful relationships. Those tend to be the most naturally driven people towards a purpose.
How would you define purpose? Because it's such a big, existential crisis thing for a lot of young people to think about.
Purpose is like your reason why you are here. And so there's 3 components to it. One is that nobody can give it to you. Okay. Like I said, it has to matter to you. The second form of purpose is that it's something bigger than you. So it's not about just you, it's bigger than you. And the third is that it's down the road, it's in the future. So for example, like winning a gold medal, that's a goal. It could be part of your purpose though, if you want to win a gold medal, to be able to, build some homes in Mexico, or maybe it's to share the insights of becoming and whatever. So it can be stepping stones. But most people that I know on the elite stage of performance, they've got something going on much deeper than just the goal. And so goals are important. And if you're struggling with motivation, go upstream to purpose, and also maybe look at, what are you motivated by? Are you motivated by money and fame and recognition? Because you're not going to get it right now. And the science behind that is it's fleeting. It's fickle, as soon as you don't get it, like it's problematic. And so the science would suggest that you want to have a slightly higher toggle of internal or intrinsic motivation, where you love the unlocking, the figuring it out, this incremental steps of getting better. And it's okay to be externally driven. It's okay to have money and fame and recognition. Just have the intrinsic just a little bit higher than the extrinsic.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. What advice would you give to people during this time who feel like they have fully been wrapped up in the negative and they've thought about gratitude, they've tried to think, I'm grateful for this or that, and they're just struggling to really experience that happiness and cultivate those good emotions?
Okay, we do people a disservice if we say be optimistic, be positive, be grateful for people who are clinically anxious and they have a clinical disorder of anxiety, or they're clinically depressed. We're doing them a great disservice. It's like putting them in quicksand and saying, hey, have fast feet. Wow, look, everyone else has got fast feet, but they're not in quicksand. So the first order of business is like, might you have something else going on? Something about mental health and wellness that we need to uncover and take a look at. How do you know? Well, if you've been like this for a while, call it 2 weeks, 30 days, 3 years, whatever. If it feels like it's hard to have joy, feel connected, to settle into the moment and be okay, and that's a pervasive thing for you, there might be a mental health issue that's sitting under the surface. The second is, if somebody's going to come into me and they've got the symptoms of anxiety or depression or addiction or something, then you know what the next thing I'm going to do? I'm going to say, wait a minute, have you had your thyroid tested? It could just be hypothyroid. Depression looks exactly like hypothyroid. And then I'm going to say, well, what's your sleep like? So depression looks a lot like sleep deprivation, sleep restriction. And then I'm going to say, well, what are you eating? Well, okay, so you're malnourished, you're not sleeping, you've got hypothyroidism, and you wonder why you don't feel well. And everyone in the world around you is saying, hey, be positive, be happy. Are you okay? Man, we do not know how to treat people we don't value the mental part of the world yet. We don't value this enough to have the language to say, I see you. I feel what you might be feeling. Hey, there's some people that I want to introduce you to. We don't have the language yet. It's like this taboo thing that it's changing. People like yourself are helping change it. It's changing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the be positive, cheer up, but you're playing on your dream team, or you just got what you wanted. And it's hard. So, so I love how you just said that too. Like, we see you, it's okay. And, you don't have to be happy because everyone's telling you to look on the bright side for the coronavirus.
Imagine, Victoria, if you were always happy.
I don't believe that. When I see that online, like, especially like there's some celebrities who are always happy, and I'm like, I want to know when you cried.
Yeah, but you're only getting 1/4 of the 1/8 of the emotional range of being human. And so when this is how wrong we are, when you say to people, what do you really want in life? And they say, I want to be happy. I want peace and happiness. Well, you don't want to be sad if mom dies? You don't want to be angry if there's something that is like an injustice to people? You want to be muted and have just one emotion? Oh my goodness. That's like Midas. Everything I touch turns to gold. It's just so limiting. And so it becomes a problem. I love the human experience. Some of my favorite people are people that have faced their dragon. They have faced it down. They've built a relationship with their dragon. They've gone into the pit with it, with the swinging tail and the claws and the fire breathing. And they tend to be people that have gone to the depths of depression or addiction. Mm-hmm. And those that say, I feel like I went a little too far, and I'm a little bit like I'm a mess here. And you know what? I have the vulnerability and the courage to take that next natural step, and I'm going to invest in me. And you don't have to become a mess to do that. Everybody in your community can take those steps right now by investing in their inner life. And then they're probably already doing it if they're part of your community, which is awesome.
Thank you. Wow, I learned so much in just this short time being able to speak with you. I'm already getting excited to re-listen to it and then write down my principles and really lay that all out into paper. So thank you so much, Dr.
I'm not going yet. I got to tell you one more thing. Okay.
Tell me.
I know that we're on a schedule here, but I got to tell you one more thing. You can train your mind just like you train your body in sets and reps. Okay. We took all of our conversation about this self-discovery, complicated conversation. That's part of it, but you can train sets and reps every day. And so that's a big part of, I hope you can share with your community how to do sets and reps on the mental emotion part of the game. Okay, the self-discovery is great. It's powerful. Sets and reps is important. Thank you, Victoria. I appreciate what you're doing. And
of course,
thank you for part of your community.
Just a daily work on that and not trying to think tomorrow you have to figure out your purpose because there's no clock. I like what you said, day by day, working through the principles might take me a month to figure out what I really value as a human. And we always have all the time in the world for you. So you're never on a clock. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Dr. Gervais. Have a great night with your family.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. Well, everyone, this has been so exciting. I learned so much from April Ross, Festus Ezeli, and Dr. Mike Gervais. I hope that you guys also felt like you had some great takeaways and learned some things that can help you. And just like as was stated by all three of our pros tonight, if you are going through something, if you are not feeling great, if this has been hard for you, we see you, that's okay. This community is designed to create a place where you can feel safe and you can feel okay with what you're going through. So make sure that if you want to join our community, you can follow the Hidden Opponent, but also Dr. Mike Gervais, who just signed off. You guys, if you were blown away the same way I was, please go to his Instagram. It is at Michael Gervais, so Gervais. And also you can follow at Compete to Create. Not to mention, he has an incredible podcast. So yes, once a week you can hear from that man who just said all those amazing things once a week on his podcast, Finding Mastery. So make sure you look up Finding Mastery on Instagram so you can follow Dr. Gervais' podcast and keep up with him. So grateful for his time. He is big time. So thank you to Dr. Gervais again. Thank you all for being a part of this night tonight. The Hidden Opponent community thanks you. Make sure you check in with your schools and to see what the resources are for you during this time, maybe with therapy, counseling, seeking help. We really appreciate you guys joining us. Hope to see you in the Facebook group and on the Instagram. Once again, thank you to April Ross. Her Instagram is at April Ross Beach. Thank you to Festus Ezeli. His Instagram is at FezzyFell. And thank you to Dr. Mike Gervais, who you can find at Michael Gervais and at Finding Mastery. I had the best time with you all tonight. I hope to hear from you guys on how the event went. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you all next time, and I hope to see you in the Hidden Opponent community. Thank you so much. I hope you guys all have a great evening.